Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul. Kyle Connor was just talking about when this team is at its best, how big a part of your identity the forecheck is. You may disagree, but it seems from the outside that the Oilers' ability to neutralize that forecheck has played a big role in the series between those two teams this season so far. What can your team do to kind of get on top of that and get that pressure down on them tonight?
Well, I agree with Kyle. I think that when you start looking at the obvious issue that we've had with them is their rush game, then you have to look at where it starts. So the forecheck is a piece of kind of that. What are you doing in their end, whether you have the puck or you don't? And the result of that rush, in a lot of ways, came from us with the puck. It wasn't we dump it in and Smith bumps it down and they go down the ice. It was what we're doing with the puck. So there's a truth to that. But it's more than just that forecheck game. It's the they've done a good job of taking away a lot of the easier offense that you might see in the first 2 months of the season, and we got behind the game and kind of put ourselves in a position that we really generated a lot for them off the rush.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Paul, this is from a couple of games ago, but we had Kyle Connor dropping the gloves there in support of Blake and Nick Ehlers jousting with Joe Thornton through the whole game. Do you tell your team that players like that shouldn't be getting involved? You know, the old saying, let the plumbers do the plumbing, or do you address that?
No, you know what? So if we ran 7 games and we had Perreault, Ehlers, and Kyle Connor dropping the gloves, I might grab onto them and say, hey, fellas, there's other things that we're paying you for. But those are really isolated incidents, not just for the Winnipeg Jets, but around the league. I don't see that happening. It's just not in the game anymore. It's not a, I would be more likely to be encouraged by the fact that they were wired up enough in a game to have it happen.
Go next to Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, Paul. What can you tell us about your lineup? And secondly, you had some action on the taxi squad. What have been the reviews on the players that were recalled on that front today?
Yeah, really good. We're also, unlike I think anybody else necessarily, we have to prep for road trips differently than other teams do, and who we bring and where our American League team is when we leave and when we come back factors into all of it. So the guys have been good that we brought up. They've worked really hard. Pascal Vincent is just kind of over the moon with the group that he's had, all of them. Like, he's just enjoyed the year. They've worked hard. They've been great to work with. So the guys we're bringing up have really gotten good reviews. How they fit in, we'll see how it goes in terms of injury. The lineup will be the same.
We'll go next to Mark Spector from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Spec.
All right, Paul. You guys are trying to write your game. I understand that, and I guess I would ask. I know it's a big picture thing. You got to get playing well before the playoffs start. But this is your last kick at the Edmonton Oilers, a team that's beat you 5 straight, and a team you're real likely to meet in the first round. Is there some urgency to notch a W against this team before you might end up facing them a bunch of times in a row here in about 3 weeks?
Well, we want to get our game right, kind of expanded beyond the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know that. So it would be the style of game, Mark, more than the end result. If you won a game and your goaltender had to stop Connor McDavid 7 times, you could say, well, there's our plan. I don't like that plan. So we got to get our game right in the next 8. But it's not even so much now getting the game right for the season. It's getting your game right for the playoffs, because that's a different game. And we're not there right now. So that's kind of the focus, is the style of hockey that's going to be played in 2-3 weeks is different than the style of hockey that's going to be played now. And by the time that puck drops, whether we're playing, more likely Toronto and Edmonton than we would be obviously Montreal at this point, nobody's going to remember. We'll talk about it, right? We're going to talk about it. And if the season series reflects the playoff series, then somebody's going to say, hey, that's the way it went all year. And if it doesn't, they're going to say, boy, that was an upset because they lost the season series. But if your game's right, your game's right. I mean, I think we beat Boston in game 7 in overtime and went over 4 against them during the year. I don't think the regular season holds a whole lot. If you get your game right to what you're good at, we haven't been good at what we're good at. We get our game right, then we're a heck of a hockey team.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, and Paul, on that note, maybe what's the balancing act, in terms of getting your game right, between the sometimes high risk, sometimes reward that maybe has been creeping in a little bit here, but not dumbing it down totally to where you take away everything that you do well?
Well, you want to find a game that you can flourish with the things that you do well without opening your game up. We get into some games that we got behind the game, opened our game up. I think our goaltending has maybe masked that earlier, and it couldn't last game. So last game we opened it up far beyond anything we've done in the past. The frustration of 3 previous losses worked totally against us, and we did the exact opposite of what we would have done maybe in the first 35 games this year. Is that if the other team scored a goal, it didn't phase us one bit. It never changed the way we played, and we had a whole bunch of wins having not scored the first goal. I think we were close to leading the league in that stat, and also not losing back-to-back. So we had that confidence and that consistency in our game. We lost a couple. I thought it started to drain out of our game, and then it was completely gone by the time we got pounded by Edmonton. So getting back to that is the challenge for us now.
We'll go next to Sarah Orlesky from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Paul, just following up on that, how far do you feel you guys are from finding that game again? Last game aside, I mean, just in general.
Potentially one game. I don't know that, the idea, the adage is you start losing, you've started to play poor hockey long before you start losing, and you start playing really well long before you start winning. That can be true. It can also be true that you've had a tough week, right? We win 4 out of 5 on the road, and the other team's playing hard too. And then you come home and you lose 4, you're going, we got to get this thing going. I don't think we're that far off it. I think the things that we do well, we can get back to fairly quickly.
We'll go next to Jim Matheson. Go ahead, Jim.
Paul, I mean, lots is made of Mike Smith and how he handles the puck as a coach, and how difficult is it when you play against a goaltender who likes to leave the net a lot, and then his defensemen aren't worried quite so much about the forecheck? Do you have to worry about where you dump the puck in and stuff on a goalie who's so good with the puck? Sure
you do. We have experience with that, maybe not necessarily last year, but there was a long stretch of years there that Pekka Rinne was, hyper active out of the net and really, really effective in moving the puck. And we would see Nashville all the time. And it is a focus when you get into a playoff series, how the goaltender moves the puck. I'm hoping not to see it tonight. The danger is when he grabs it, the first one, and goes down the ice to a guy that's streaking, and that's the obvious. But where he's good is in the simple plays and the simple passes. It's the 4-foot pass that buys time for that defenseman to make the 10-foot pass. So he's going to get out and he's going to touch a bunch of pucks, and you want to have a plan for it. The idea is that any of the ones that you can change the way that you put the puck in and still be effective, you got to be mindful of that. I've felt in the games that we were casual in how we put the puck in, and I think we can't be casual with it.
And final question to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Paul. Just back to the theme of you guys sort of forcing things now as opposed to early in the season. I feel like a professional athlete is going to be worlds better than me, but I think that good habits are easier to keep good than turning bad habits into good ones in terms of energy. And I'm wondering, professional coach, professional athletes, the best in the world, how do you make that shift from a human point of view?
So I would agree with that. And I would say our record coming off the road says that we were pretty good with good habits, right? We were very consistent over the course of the year. We hadn't been on a losing streak, and then now we find ourselves in one. So we believe it's there. What happens when a player, why would you lose confidence? So you get down and you get behind these games, and then your risk profile changes, and the risk profile is real. So if you are running a higher risk game, there is a higher risk that it's going to work against you. You'll get a payoff every once in a while. So we score a goal and that's exciting. But you give up 4 or 5 clean rush chances against the Edmonton Oilers and the people that they have, and you lose 6-1. So it's not a, hey, you know what? I don't care whether we get beat by 6. I'm going to see if I can do something to score a goal. What it is we're down 2-1 or we're down 3-1 or down, 3-0. We need a play to get this game back. And we've stayed out of that mindset for the big bulk of the year. And we are firmly in that mindset now. And that's the mindset that has to change.